This guy came down on someone else's temple like a snowball. His name is Han Shen. He's a necromancer with a huge amount of skills and a skeleton warrior who can take the skills of humans and transfer them to skeletons. But is that all there is to it? Oh no, you'll just have to look further and see just how powerful our guy will become. In a remote temple in the middle of nowhere, an elderly couple was praying. They prayed that the gods would give them at least one child. It turned out that their last child had died, and now the man's wife seemed to be going crazy, sometimes coming around and then being delirious. The man realized that they were too old, and therefore children were not worth thinking about. But suddenly, a young man began to fall from the sky, which broke through the roof of the temple and frightened the husband and wife. It was Han Shen. He was 19 years old and didn't realize where he was or what he was wearing. The woman, however, was ecstatic. At last the gods had heard her prayers and given her a child. But here was a man who didn't understand. Had the gods really given them a son? But Han was of a different opinion. He didn't fucking understand who these people were. He didn't like being touched by some woman. The husband immediately stood up for his wife, calling Han Shen a petty asshole for being so rude to his mother. But the wife started to stand up for her son. She was shocked that the father dared to raise his hand against his son. Han Shen had had enough. He ordered the two of them to stop. But suddenly the guy noticed their strange ancient clothes, and therefore thought something was wrong. Han Shen thought, did he really find himself in a different world? Soon everyone was in the wagon. The man wondered if the guy had come to them from another world, and Shen confirmed the hunch. As it turned out, Shen had also lost his memory. The only thing he remembers is that his name is Han Shen, and he's 19 years old. In his world, he was doing hard labor. But Shen didn't understand why he had to do this hard work. He doesn't even know who his family and friends are. The boy wondered why he had gotten here. The new mother let the whole razzle-dazzle pass her ears and simply offered her new son a meal. She's willing to cook whatever he wants. But the man felt they needed to go to one place first, which surprised Shen a little. Wuzuan Mountain Oriental Academy. It was a beautiful place, perfect for a weekend destination. In the new place, namely the testing hall, the girl saw that Shang was indeed wearing their academy's uniform. Judging from the stories, the girl assumed that Shen was chosen by the gods, but the young man standing nearby thought that Shen was just another vagrant. She decided to test Shen, but warned him that he would be punished for lying. The girl asked the guy to touch the crystals, and Shen agreed. As he approached the crystal, Shen thought about the fact that these people didn't seem like bad people, and therefore would do what they asked. Touching the crystal, Shen saw himself, and other than his hair and clothes, nothing had changed. Since nothing happened, the guy thought Shen was a cheat, and the girl's verdict was that Shen would be punished. But suddenly, Shen felt something strange. In the same second, the boy found himself in a gloomy place where a creepy voice beckoned him closer and closer. An eerie voice finally announced that Shen had been chosen. In front of the guy's eyes was a chained warrior in armor that emitted an incredible aura of power. The warrior looked at the guy and saw him as a weak guy, and therefore Shen was not worthy of wielding his power yet. Still, he reckoned that Shen would gradually get the hang of it. At this moment, a skeletal uncleanness appeared behind the guy and called Han Shen as the new master. The skeletons were getting closer and closer to the guy, and he didn't realize who they were. The skeletons began to clamp down on the guy, preventing him from moving. In an instant, Shen found himself in the real world, and then abruptly took his hand away from the crystal. The girl finally noticed that the crystal was starting to respond to the guy's touch, and her parents were very worried. But Shen wasn't thrilled for him to continue, for he might die. The girl then also asked a guy named Xiao Song to help Han Sheng. Using the armor awakening technique, Xiao Song began to arm himself in a level 9 deadly armor. Shen didn't understand why the hell that guy was wearing armor. In the same second, Xiao Song was behind Shen, grabbing his hands. Because Xiao Song was strong, Shen couldn't resist him, and so the guy's hand was once again on the crystal. At this moment, lightning bolts began to form out of nowhere on the crystal, causing Xiao Mong to hurriedly bounce back. The parents didn't understand what was going on here. But in the meantime, everyone suddenly noticed the new armor they had just bought from Amazon. It was Han Shen who had just obtained the first-level Lord armor. Xiao Mong was extremely shocked. After all, the first time he awakened, the armor was only level 1. But then why did Shen look so strong? At this moment, Shen pounced on Xiao Mong, but he only asked the guy to stop. Shen's attack was successful and Xiao Mong's armor was destroyed. The girl was surprised that the 9th level armor was destroyed. She thought that the guy really had talent, but still he lacked practice. Besides, now his mind was being destroyed by the armor. The parents were scared. They asked Shen to stop and go home with them. But Shen was out of his mind. He threw his spear at the named mother. The woman's husband had of course asked his love to be careful, but there was no stopping the spear. The spear stops just a few inches from hit the old woman in the face. The woman is holding the spear so that it can't hurt the old woman. She breaks the spear by squeezing it harder. Han Shen is told to take back the broken spear, which she throws back at him. Han Shen is startled when the spear goes through the wall next to him. As the spear breaks apart, Han Shen's face changes into a mean smile. All of a sudden, Han Shen is no longer there. He reappears in front of the woman in an instant, his hand raised into a claw shape and aimed at her. She raises her hand and the skin on her palm shines. She hits Han Shen with her palm and the force of the air knocks him back. When Han Shen's armor breaks, his face turns red with shock. As soon as Han Shen comes to, he wonders what happened before everything went dark. It shows up and says that the connection to the host was successful. The battle domain system then starts up. Han Shen wakes up and sees that he is floating around in the dark with a screen in front of him. His body looks like a ghostly white ghost. He doesn't know where he is. According to the system, the host, who is Han Shen, has received a reward for connecting the battle domain will, which keeps his mind from getting messed up while he's wearing armor. While putting his hand on his chin and thinking, Han Shen realizes that the mental disturbance means when he loses control. The system suddenly gives you a new mission to look into the library at the Eastern Academy. You can choose yes or no to accept it. Shinhong clicks yes because he wants to know more about the mission. After having a strange feeling, Han Shen wakes up in bed and yells, "Wait a minute," because he still has a lot of questions. When the woman saw that Han Shen was awake, she ran to him and joyfully called him son. Her husband stood next to her, crossed his arms, and huffed. Han Shen asks where he is, and the husband says it's the place the academy set up for him and that he's been asleep for hours. Han Shen strokes his forehead, feeling the pain that won't go away, and wonders if the system he used earlier was all in his mind. The old woman looks at Han Shen more closely and thinks he might not be feeling well. She asks Han Shen if he's hungry and offers to feed him milk like her mom, but her husband cuts her off and yells at her to wait. The husband says that their son is very old and doesn't need milk to try to look calm. The woman says that Han Shen is still a baby, and the husband agrees, saying that Han Shen might be thirsty. A strange-looking old man asks Han Shen if he is thirsty. Han Shen agrees with a smile and asks for a cup of water. Han Shen is told by the old man that he almost made a big mess and that it could have been terrible if Ms. Lu hadn't stepped in. The man named Han Shen isn't sure if Ms. Lu is the strong woman he fought earlier. He says that Lu Nanjiao is a new teacher at the Eastern Academy. He says that she is pretty and charming on the outside, but she has a very bad temper and is very strict. The old man tells Han Shan that Ms. Lu will also teach him, while Han Shan's wife complains about how strict Lu is while pouring water. The old woman brings Han Shan a cup of water and says it will help him cool off. When he hears that Lu will be his teacher, he asks him if he will be studying there. Assuring Han Shan that he can focus on his studies there, the old man says that the Eastern Academy is a place where armored warriors are trained. He also says that he and his wife will visit him often. The old woman presses up against Han Shen, who mumbles that he wants to see Ms. Lu as he tries to push her away. When Han Shen first sees the big hill, he tells everyone how big and cute it is. They walk along a sky bridge while the moon is shining brightly. He agrees with Ms. Lu when she asks if he came to see her late to go to the book pavilion. Han Shen wants to learn more about the world because he feels like the system has given him a mission. Ms. Lu says that the pavilion has many books about the world. Han Shen will have to spend a lot of time reading all the books, Ms. Lu says, and she offers to give Han Shen a short explanation. She says that this world is called the Battle Domain Continent and has a lot of spiritual energy and different kinds of life. When people in that world awaken the power of armor, they can become battle domain armored warriors and get a lot of different powers. She says there are evil spirits that, when gathered together, turn into monsters called the Calamity, which are mean creatures that cause damage. As Ms. Lu points out, the Calamity can only be fought by the armored warriors. When Han Shen gets to the pavilion, Ms. Lu tells him to take his time because she has other things to do. Han Shen says sorry for bothering her. There is danger everywhere in that world, Han Shen knows. He goes into the pavilion to see if there are any books on amnesia in the hopes of finding a way to remember things. The doors open, and Han Shen sees two fierce tiger eyes staring back at him. Surprised, Han Shen is startled. A huge tiger charges at Han Shen all of a sudden. The tiger's sharp claw is blocked by Han Shen's spear. As it moves toward Han Shen, the tiger lets out a loud roar. A huge shockwave is made when Han Shen drives the spear into the ground. He realizes he needs to put on his full battle armor as he struggles to hold onto the spear that is sending out strong shockwaves. Suddenly, someone speaks up, raises their hand, and says enough. The tiger stops what it's doing and turns to face a figure coming out of the doors. The person calls it dog egg and scolds it for being rude. The new person, an old man named Zhang who is the librarian, says sorry to Han Shen and asks if he is hurt. Han Shen puts the spear away and asks the old man how he knows him. The librarian, Zhang, says that Teacher Lu has already told everyone on staff who Han Shen is. He says that other people should not know about it. Zhang tells Han Shen that he doesn't know everything because they are sitting on the floor with a table in front of them. Han Shen asks Zhang why the library has such a mean tiger. Zhang makes it clear that the tiger, named Dog Egg, is a spirit he raised that attacked Han Shen because it smelled something strange about him. Zhang tells Han Shen he's sorry and that he has been working at the library for more than 3 years and has never heard of books that can bring back memories. Xiaoxin says it's okay and says that his only memory is of hard times. He also says he's not sure what the benefits of retrieving all memories are. Zhang puts his hand to his ear and asks Han Shen why he thinks he looks good. As he talks about his own youth when he was the most handsome man, Zhang says with a proud look that Han Shen knows how to talk. Han Shen is confused and wants to know when he called Zhang handsome. Han Shen agrees that Zhang is strange, but he also likes how reliable he is, especially when it comes to helping him find books about the world. Han Shen finds that the timeline is confusing because the history of people on this world, called the Battle Domain Continent and the Blue Star, is similar. He knows that the details about armor skills are full of useless information and it's hard for him to remember so many things at once. Instead, he's interested in legends. People still believe in a story that says evil spirits will come out one day. As soon as that time comes, the world will fall into terrible chaos, and no amount of armored warriors will be able to save the continent. The people can only be saved by holy sons from outside the heavens, and the Mother Stone will be able to find the holy sun. The system appears and congratulates Han Shen on getting the Eye of Insight reward for the mission. This item lets the host see more information about targets. The sudden appearance of the system shocks Han Shen, who realizes that the last time he saw it wasn't a dream. When Zhang looks at Han Shen and asks if something is wrong, Han Shen asks Zhang if he can see what's in front of him. Zhang asks what he means, but Han Shen brushes it off. The next day, at the high school's back mountain, as Han Shen stands next to Ms. Liu, a group of students form a shape facing her. Ms. Liu says that all of the freshmen have arrived and that she has something to say before they start training. Ms. Liu tells the other students they have a new student and introduces Han Shen. Han Shen waves at them. One of the students notices that Xiaosong often helps the teachers with training and wants to know why Teacher Liu is there. When another girl student looks at Han Shen, she thinks he's pretty good looking and wonders how strong he is. Han Shen is told to get in line by Ms. Liu, who also tells the middle of the front row to make room. She says that today's training will be changed to basic training and makes it clear that students are not allowed to put on armor. Han Shen looks worried as he thinks about what kind of training it will be since he was just born yesterday. A girl with black hair looks at Han Shen and wonders if he is weak because training isn't as hard for him now. Another guy next to him is being told in a whisper by a guy with a headband that Teacher Liu might like the new guy because she put him in the middle of the front row. The guy with long hair swears, letting Liu know that he only came to school to date her, and he's upset that Han Shen stole the show. He is determined and decides that he needs to take care of Han Shen the right way. At the training grounds, Teacher Liu tells the students to keep walking through the military training grounds, saying that the training will end when they get to the forest. The last student will get whipped, Ms. Liu says, and she asks them if they understand. Except for Han Shen, every student shouts understood and bows down. Han Shen just stands there. Han Shen does the same thing and bows too. Now that everyone gets it, Ms. Liu tells the training to begin. All of the students run outside quickly and without stopping. Han Shen sees this and does the same thing, wondering if it's a training for endurance and speed. He knows they are all very strong because even girls have beaten him easily. He is sure that his body is better than other students because he has done some hard work in the past. Han Shen realizes that he is the weak link among them as they run through the forest and wonders what kind of training the others may have had. Stones start to slide down from above as they run below. Huge boulders fall quickly, which gets Han Shen's attention and makes him look worried. All of the students use different strategies to stay away from the boulders as they hit the ground. Han Shen is confused as he watches how well the students handle the situation. Someone steps in just as a big rock is about to crush Han Shen. The girl kicks the rock, breaking it into several pieces. Han Shen puts his arms up to protect his face from the loose stones. The girl lands in a brave way. She calls Han Shen the new guy and tells him not to slack off even if it's just basic training. She smiles and tells Han Shen to remember to be more serious. She also wishes him luck as the system shows her introduction. It shocks Han Shen to see the character interface. When Baozi charges forward, Han Shen remembers that she was at the front and wonders if she came to help him. Someone grabs Han Shen by the shoulder and talks to him like he's a classmate. The guy with long hair asks Han Shen if he's scared and tells him to calm down. As he moves on, the guy talks about what will happen to the last person, which makes Han Shen wonder how he missed him coming up behind him. Han Shen wonders why his Eye of Insight didn't work and thinks that the system might have its own rules. He also talks about the guy's unbearable disgust. He is tired and leans against a tree deep in the forest. He asks the system to open his character interface. The system shows his stats. Both his attack and defense strengths are rated as trash. Seeing trash in his traits, Han Shen comments on the system's mean words and wonders how strong he is in battle with his armor on. Han Shen is startled when a huge tree log falls on him out of the blue. He acts quickly and just barely avoids the log. He yells about how dangerous it is and asks how many more traps there are after he gets away from the first one. The system tells Han Shen that he earned 100 XP for avoiding the trap. Han Shen thinks about the XP he was given and wonders if it means he can level up. Han Shen's eyes get really big in shock as he sees something. He grabs his hurt shoulder and feels numbness spread through his body. The system lets him know that his body has been poisoned and starts the healing process. After being shocked to learn that he has been poisoned, Han Shen quickly looks around. The guy with long hair touched his shoulder, which he now knows. From behind the trees, Han Shen sees something coming toward him. Several arrows are aimed at him, and one hits him as the system tells him he failed to avoid the trap. The next few arrows miss Han Shen, who gets some XP. He knows that the numbness is making him less quick on his feet because he is still holding onto his shoulder. Han Shen is scared when he hears a noise. When he looks up, he sees spikes made of wood falling right on him. Under his breath, he swears. The system alerts that antibodies have been made which get rid of the poison. Han Shen smiles as he feels his numbness go away. He quickly avoids the spikes by taking a quick step out of them. He gets 100 XP from the system for avoiding the trap. He quickly steps back and looks at the huge wooden cage that is now sitting where he was before. Thanks to his good health, Han Shen thinks he will be able to avoid most of the traps from now on. As Han Shen goes deeper into the forest, he dodges even more arrows and gains more experience points. He gets XP by jumping over huge holes with spikes in the bottom. Han Shen avoids the sharp blades that are swinging on ropes and says he will do his best. He screams in pain as he runs into sharp vines. He is on his back as spiked trees rush above him and he has to avoid them. As he says that he is going to use the system to get stronger, he jumps over a huge boulder that is hanging from chains. Lots of XP are given to Han Shen for avoiding the traps. As soon as the system gets the huge amount of XP, it upgrades Han Shen's armor and tells him how great he is. Han Shen says he feels a small change in his body strength and knows that his armor has been raised to the second level. He says it feels like all of his cells, including his muscles, bones, and even skin, have been filled with energy. Han Shen is told by the system that he now has the new skill Bingzhou Skeleton Soldiers Level 1. He wants to know more about the Bingzhou Skeleton Soldiers. The system tells Han Shen that he can call up 2 Bingzhou Skeleton Soldiers to fight for him. Their levels will rise along with his, and he can do this even if he doesn't have the battle armor. He thinks that skill might be like calling something. When Han Shen reads the description, he realizes that some skills can only be used while wearing battle armor. From behind a tree, the guy with long hair looks at Han Shen. He looks annoyed and wonders why Han Shen is still standing after being hit by his spell that paralyzed him. He is mad that he wasn't caught by the trap. He walks slowly as he thinks about whether he failed to poison Han Shen. He makes up his mind to take care of Han Shen again as he sneaks up behind him. Han Shen grabs the man's arm. There is anger in Han Shen's voice as he asks the guy how many times he plans to use the same trick. The fact that a needle can be seen through the guy's ring on his hand shows that he is lying. With a nervous smile, the guy says it's not clear and offers to explain. The guy gets kicked by Han Shen and crashes into a tree a few feet away. While looking at the ring for clues or traps, Han Shen holds it up to his ear and says, "I don't have time for that." The guy, who is lying on the ground, says that since he was a child, he has only hit other people and no one has dared to touch him, which shows that he had a bad childhood. He stands up and jumps at Han Shen. He looks angry and asks, "How dare you hit me?" His sense of entitlement is clear. Their 2 hands touch in the air, sending a shockwave through the air that makes leaves fly everywhere. This shows how heated their argument is. The man scolds Han Shen for not giving him a slap, and as he pants, he changes his mind and thinks that Han Shen might not be weak after all. Han Shen, who is sweating, agrees that the guy's slap was strong and says he's glad he leveled up. When the guy swings his arm, Han Shen steps back a bit. With a mean smile, the guy says that he is the young master of the Song family, a royal lineage, and he freely admits that he has bullied other people, showing how cocky he is. Han Shen makes it clear that he doesn't care about royalty and calls the guy an annoying jerk. Han Shen says it's a good time to test the new skills I've learned, and his confidence grows. Han Shen says he's a little lazy and uses the Bingzhou Skeleton Soldier skill to call up 2 scary skeleton soldiers. 2 terrifying skeleton soldiers with weapons and armor show up, and Han Shen tells the guy to play with them. The Bingzhou Skeleton Soldiers are an infantry type, and their combat strength is D, and their defense strength is E. He looks confused and sweaty as he asks what those things are. In the meantime, Han Shen stays calm and says, "Let's go." The skeleton warriors raise their swords and lunge at the man. When the skeleton swings his sword, it makes a lot of force and cuts a tree behind the guy, just missing him. The guy looks worried and exclaims about how fast and strong the skeletons are, comparing them to students wearing battle armor. The skeleton warrior with the naginata raises it high, getting ready to hit the guy. After that, the skeleton swings its naginata and hits the ground hard. The guy just barely avoids being hit. He waves his hand around and calls up battle armor. The skeleton warriors look at him with mean eyes. The system says that the man is Song Yoon, and he is wearing his battle armor. He is a human king 3rd level. Song Yoon charges forward and cuts the skeleton warriors through the body quickly with his blades. He then smirks and says that he used poison that hurts and poison blades that bleed, saying that no one can fight the poisons. The poison doesn't hurt the skeleton warriors, though, and they charge at Yoon, scaring him. He blocks the sword attack with his dagger and says that his poison can't hurt the summoners. The skeleton moves to attack again, but Yoon flips backwards out of the way of the sword. Then Yoon turns his attention to Han Shen and decides that it would be best to beat him since he called the skeleton. When he thinks about what he will do about the people, he starts to sweat. The skeleton strikes Yoon from behind while she is thinking, while she is not paying attention. After a short time, the system tells Han Shen that he earned 180 XP for avoiding the trap. It's important for Han Shen to get more XP and get stronger, so he runs fast as spike trees fall on him. He says he can't waste time with dumb people like Song Yoon. Han Shen is told by the system that teleportation is being prepared and that there is a temporary mandatory quest. When Han Shen sees this notification, he screams in confusion about teleportation and required quests. He says he needs a break because he feels like someone is pulling on him. Soon after the bright flash of light, Han Shen is no longer there. After a short time, he is teleported to a place not in the forest at all. His mind is blank and he looks around. As he stands up and looks around, he sees huge walls everywhere and starts to wonder where he is. When he looks ahead, he sees a small hole through which a bright light is shining. As he walks toward the door and steps out of it, he enters a different room with a big bowl-shaped structure in the middle and steps leading inside. He is confused and doesn't understand why the system teleported him to this strange place. Another message from the system tells Han Shen to go down the steps and stand in the middle. Han Shen does what the system tells him to do. He walks down the stairs slowly, worried, but sure that the system won't hurt him. The system sends out a warning that Han Shen's body is frozen and his armor is blocked. Han Shen realizes that his body can't move and feels scared. A centipede crawls in through a small hole in the wall, and then hundreds more come in. "What is this?" asks Han Shen, who looks worried. Still more scorpions come in from the other side. More snakes that move slowly creep in. There are hundreds of scorpions, centipedes, and snakes all around Han Shen. A message from the system tells you that the poison-dashed insect trial has begun. Han Shen stands immobilized in the center as scorpions and centipedes climb up his body, with thousands more swarming around his knees. As the insects start biting him, Han Shen twists his face, claiming that it hurts. He questions why it's happening as his hands get stung by scorpions. He questions why the system is making him suffer as 2 snakes sink their fangs into him. The system overloads with danger warnings, saying Han Shen has been poisoned and finally informing that Han Shen's body is nearing its limit and starting to lose control. Meanwhile, Han Shen's eyes start glowing. He raises his arms as electricity surrounds his body, zapping all the insects. His body trembles with pain. He falls to the ground and crouches, exclaiming in pain that the poison is spreading through his body, feeling pain coursing through his veins. He twists his face in pain as he feels like a sharp knife is cutting up his insides, saying each breath feels like it's tearing his lungs apart. He complains more about the pain as blood oozes out of his mouth, questioning if it's all a dream and if he's in a nightmare. He claims his body and will are both on the verge of collapse and accepts that death would be liberating. He closes his eyes and everything goes black. A town is engulfed in snow with an accident nearby. A couple of workers are surrounding someone who has been crushed by fallen metal. As one of them says the crane's cable snapped and the other notices that the person is still breathing. The boss shouts at the others to quit standing and hurry to help get the injured guy to the hospital. The workers agree as the boss tells them to hurry up, saying they might be able to save the injured one. In the forest, the pine tree leaves are covered in snow. Han Shen's eyes are half closed as he hears one guy say he is exhausted. Han Shen watches 2 black figures, both holding shovels, as one asks the other, calling him uncle, if it's okay doing this, and the uncle asks if the nephew thought they would really take Han Shen to the hospital. The uncle, pushing the shovel into the mud, says Han Shen is just an innocent orphan with no kin. He throws dirt and mud at the passed-out Han Shen, burying him, expressing that nobody cares if a person like him dies. The system pops out, informing that various antibodies have been successfully produced, neutralizing the poison. The system congratulates Han Shen for his elementary poison resistance being upgraded to intermediate poison resistance. Han Shen pushes himself off the ground with his hands, realizing that the memory he saw earlier was his previous fate. He regrets his past weakness, likening himself to an ant, and claims he is going to be strong now that he has the system with him. He wonders if the system is training him because it thinks his poison resistance is too low. looking determined, his eyes glowing. He asks the system what other methods it has to make him stronger, claiming he will bear all the burdens. The system informs that the mission is complete and initiates the transfer. Han Shen gets teleported back to the forest where he originally was. He looks up at the sky and notices the bright moon, realizing it's night and wonders how long he had been out in that place. Suddenly, he hears movement in the bush behind him and wonders what it is. Out of the bush, Jing Song peeks out, startling Han Shen. Seeing Han Shen, Jing Song grabs him by the shoulders, expressing happiness, and asks if he is okay and if he is hurt. After that, he turns over and shouts loudly that he found Han Shen. Meanwhile, Han Shen is confused by what is happening. At Han Shen's residence, Han Shen and Ms. Liu are sitting at a table as Ms. Liu repeats what Han Shen informed her about fainting during the test and waking up at night time, claiming it's too odd. Jing Song, who is standing nearby, suggests Han Shen might have been poisoned or something. As Ms. Liu tells Han Shen he is lucky to have not been injured. Taking a swig of tea, Ms. Liu asks Han Shen if he came across a student named Yun Jing during the test. Han Shen asks who Song Yun Jing is. Jing Song says that Song Yun Jing is a male student with a tuft of hair in front, who always looks self-satisfied, and then whispers to Han Shen that Song Yun Jing was secretly pursuing teacher Liu, adding that Liu found him annoying. Jing Song informs Han Shen that before they found him, they found Song Yun Jing's body. Han Shen is shocked to learn that Song Yun Jing died. Han Shen says he hasn't seen Song Yun and that he hurt himself because he didn't think Song Yun was as strong as he was, so he rested for half a day instead of training. Jing Song says he can't believe something like this happened and says that traces show there were at least 2 attackers. Teacher Liu is angry and says that since the academy opened, nothing like that has ever happened. She is worried that the academy will definitely find out what took place. When Han Shen hears this, he feels worried because he thinks he might be in trouble. It's getting late, so Teacher Liu and Jing Song decide to let Han Shen rest. He agrees. Han Shen gets a glass of water for himself. He then takes a seat and thinks about whether Song Yun's death has anything to do with his skeleton soldiers, since he hadn't told them to kill anyone. As he looks at himself in the mirror, he wonders if the situation was made worse by unclear instructions. This makes him call on the skeleton warriors to find out what really happened. 2 skeleton warriors appear behind him as he commands them to. Then Han Shen slams the empty cup on the table and asks very directly if they killed those people in the forest. The bones nod their heads. He scolds them, saying he didn't tell them to kill, when he realizes that the skeletons killed those people. The skulls look at each other quickly and say, "Guilty." Then they both hit their heads on the ground and bowed and said sorry to Han Shen. He told them to get up and embarrass them. After that, Han Shen makes it clear to the skeletons that they should never kill someone without his permission. The skeleton warriors obey his order and bow once more. Han Shen gets mad and tells them to go away. Both skeletons then vanish. Han Shen decides that the skeleton soldiers are not smart even if they are strong. He will be careful with them from now on. The system appears and gives Han Shen a well-timed quest to finish pathfinding and follow the directions to get to the goal. When Han Shen sees the quest appear, he is shocked that a new quest showed up so quickly. Han Shen sees small marks on the ground that point him in the right direction. The quest told him to follow the guide. He opens the door as the trail leads out of the house. Han Shen sees that the path goes all the way outside when he walks out the door. This makes him wonder where the system wants him to go. He isn't sure if the quest will be a test like the last one. There are many bright stars and a clear full moon in the sky tonight. The moonlight shines on a room full of furniture that looks like rolling beds. It doesn't make a sound when Han Shen jumps down from above into the room. The system tells him that he has reached the end of the line, which means that the pathfinding is done. The room is in the middle of nowhere and no one is in it, but Han Shen says that he was told to sneak in through the skylight. Then something in front of him grabs his attention. Han Shen is given 1000 XP by the system, which also tells him that the game ends at Yizhuang College. Han Shen sees someone lying down in front of him with a white cloth over their body. Then he puts out his hand and reaches for the cloth. He takes off the cloth that was over the body and doesn't know if it could be Song Yun's body. Han Shen lets go of the cloth and puts it back on the body after seeing who is inside. It is Song Yun. Han Shen gets a reward from the system, an air skeleton soldier, 1 piece, and a new skill called armor. Something appears behind Han Shen and scares him. A new skeleton soldier has been sent to Han Shen. It doesn't have any armor on, which makes him wonder why the system gave it to him. After that, the system asks Han Shen if he wants to take out the battle armor by saying a battle armor that can be extracted is detected and giving him 2 choices, yes or no. When Han Shen sees the prompt, he is left to think about what the armor extraction is. Han Shen uses the armor extraction skill to find out what it is. He moves his hand over the body and pulls something that looks like dark energy out of it. The system tells us that the armor extraction is going on at the same time. The armorless skeleton soldier's body starts to get armor, while the system tells the air skeleton soldier that the armor extraction is now equipped. Before, The air skeleton soldier didn't have any armor on its body. Now that it does, it has full armor all over its body, which makes it D+ strong and D+ defensive. Han Shen decides to give his new skeleton warrior a name later. For now, he wants to know how many soldiers he can call up. The system tells him that he can call up to 100,000 infantry-type skeleton soldiers, but that he only has 3 at the moment. Han Shen is shocked to learn that he can call up a lot of skeleton soldiers. The system does say that Han Shen can call up 100,000 long-range crossbow-type skeleton warriors, 100,000 cavalry-type skeleton warriors, 100,000 healer-type skeleton warriors, and 100,000 siege-type skeleton warriors. When Han Shen finds out that he will have a total of 500,000 skeleton warriors, he is confused. Day 2. When there was an accident at training that eliminated someone, fear spread among the students. The academy quickly increased security, which made things safe again. The couple, who Han Shen calls aunt and uncle, often came to see him at the academy, and their kindness was sometimes too much for him to handle. They accept Han Shen as their son, but he still hasn't found the courage to call them father and mother. That's okay with them. Han Shen is still training at the academy as usual. With his new level, Han Shen was able to keep up with his classmates. He decided that for now, it would be best to keep the skeleton soldiers a secret. Han Shen also thinks he shouldn't depend too much on the skeleton soldiers and that he needs to keep improving his battle armor. Han Shen doesn't get hurt by the training grounds traps, but he doesn't learn anything either because he can easily avoid them. Han Shen's training with his classmates in full armor has made his fighting experience a lot better. Han Shen has been making progress every day, but he still hasn't been able to put on his head armor. Not even his teachers can figure out why. Over time, Han Shen has grown closer to his teammates and learned that some nobles come to the academy without being seen. It's either a search for better armor or a connection with god-level instructors for these nobles. They don't take these efforts seriously because they rarely have to deal with disasters on the battlefield. Now that 3 months have passed, today is the first day of a 5-day visit. Han Shen and some friends are relaxing under some trees while Baozi asks him where he wants to go on vacation. Han Shen says he hasn't decided yet, and he quietly admits to himself that he doesn't know much about the world. Baozi smiles and tells Han Shen that her mother makes delicious buns, so she should come over. At that very moment, old Jiang comes out from behind a bush and loudly tells Han Shen that a carriage has arrived to pick him up. Is this true? This makes Han Shen wonder who will come get him. In Foottown, a town close to the academy, a voice tells the young master that they have arrived as a horse-drawn carriage stops. When Han Shen gets out of the carriage, he says, "That's my first time there." He looks up at a huge house that looks like a mansion. When the huge door to the mansion opens, the old lady greets Han Shen with joy and says how much he has grown. Han Shen moves out of the way, scaring the old woman, who then falls to the floor headfirst. The woman's angry husband kicks Han Shen in the cheek and asks how dare he avoid his mother's loving hug. The old woman fights back by giving her husband a hard elbow and telling him not to hit her son. At that very moment, the housekeeper walks out with a smile and tells them to let Han Shen in before the food goes bad. The old woman grabs Han Shen's arm and tells him that she has made him a lot of tasty food. The table inside the house is full of different kinds of food, and Han Shen is welcome to sit down. He doesn't have to feel bad about it because it's his own home too. Han Shen sits down at the table and asks where the old lady is. He suggests that they all eat together, and the old man tells him she will be there soon. Han Shen is told by the old man that his mom has been busy all night making dishes for him and that she is still finishing up one dish. When Han Shen hears this, he looks happy. They are both uncomfortable with the silence as they sit at the table. Han Shen feels bad about himself and wonders if this is how father and son always act. The old man clears his throat and tells the 2 women who are helping him to leave the room. After that, he closes the door. He then gets down on his knees. He bends down and bows to Han Shen, who looks stumped. The old man is sitting down when Han Shen tells him to get up. The old man looks very upset and tells Han Shen that he knows he is the holy son and that his status is higher than most people. He begs Han Shen to do him a favor. Han Shen seems shocked by this. The old man tells Han Shen that his wife has been mentally ill and hasn't smiled in many years since their child died. He says that she is now happy to have Han Shen as her son. By lowering his head, he asks Han Shen to call his wife mother, just to make her laugh. Outside, the old lady's sister tells her not to work too hard and to let the servants do it. But the old lady says she wants to do it herself because it's her son's first time home. The old woman looks very happy as she holds a dish, and her sister says she hasn't seen her sister so happy in a long time. The old woman says with a big smile that her son is the best. Someone jumps off the roof behind them right then. The person in armor falls to the ground, making a small crack as the 2 women are startled. The old woman is scared and asks who he is. The man bears a huge helmet with horns on his head and smiles evilly. His face shows that he is cruel. A worried voice echoes loudly proclaiming that there's bad news. One of the attendants reports to the old man that Madam and the housekeeper have been taken by unknown soldiers. The old man, looking distressed upon hearing his wife has been abducted, cries out that they have always been peaceful and wonders how it could happen. He winces with self-blame, acknowledging it's his fault for not hiring guards to protect them due to the prolonged peace, as Han Shen attempts to reassure him. The old man decides to report to the government and request for reinforcements. He then engages in an internal struggle, visibly torn on how to act in this distressing situation, slapping himself in frustration. Tears streaming down his face, he ponders where to find help, suddenly realizing that Han Shen is also an armorer. Turning to Han Shen, he finds him missing and questions his absence. Even the servant confirms Han Shen was just there moments ago and expresses surprise at his sudden disappearance. Meanwhile, in the village, Han Shen is already hot on the trail of the kidnapper, leaping from roof to roof with the agility of a ninja. Darting above the houses at blinding speed, he boasts about mastering the breath-tracking technique in college, now proving useful. According to him, as long as you are near someone you are familiar with, you can sense their presence by their breaths, focusing on his auntie's breath to locate her. Far from the village, nestled between mountains and a forest, 2 deer peacefully graze on the grass. Suddenly, Han Shen drops down onto the grassy floor, startling the deer away. Sensing his auntie has ceased moving and her breath has weakened, he springs into action. Before him looms a vast cave, and he wonders if the kidnappers are hiding within, pondering their motives for taking his auntie there. Peering into the dark depths of the cave, he realizes its remote location makes it perfect for an ambush. Despite the potential danger, he pushes aside his concerns, knowing his auntie's life hangs in the balance. The cave is shrouded in darkness with mushrooms dotting its interior. Han Shen cautiously enters the cavern, surprised by its expansive size, reminding himself to stay vigilant for any potential ambushes. Suddenly, his demeanor shifts to alarm as he spots something ahead of him. In a corner of the cave, his auntie sits on the floor, prompting Han Shen to call out her name upon spotting her. Rushing to her side, he gently shakes her, realizing she's unconscious, and desperately tries to rouse her. At that moment, a large animal's leg with a hoof looms behind Han Shen. It's a massive wild boar, its eyes aglow with a fierce red glare, causing Han Shen to recoil at its eerie appearance. The system issues a danger warning, indicating that Han Shen has intruded into the beast's territory, rendering it hostile. Deciding to lead the creature away to protect his auntie, Han Shen maneuvers to draw its attention elsewhere. The enraged boar charges at him, but Han Shen agilely dodges, causing the beast to crash into the cave wall. Seizing the opportunity, Han Shen summons his spear and attempts to strike the beast from behind. However, he soon realizes the creature's hide is incredibly tough, suggesting it's at least 2 levels higher than him. The system alerts him that the beast's rage and attack power have increased, though its defense has weakened. Despite the odds, Han Shen prioritizes his auntie's safety and swiftly hoists her onto his shoulder, sprinting toward the cave's exit. Waiting just outside the mouth of the cave is the housekeeper. As he notices her, Han Shen is surprised to see she's unharmed, momentarily forgetting she was also kidnapped. Puzzled by her well-being and presence outside, Han Shen's suspicion grows. Just then, a towering figure cloaked in armor emerges behind the housekeeper, wearing an unsettling smile. Han Shen's shock is palpable, his mouth agape in disbelief. The housekeeper returns the eerie smile and utters, "Let's do it." With a thunderous crash, the armored giant slams his fist into the ground, causing the cave floor to fracture. The cave entrance collapses, sending massive chunks of stone tumbling down in a chaotic cascade. Han Shen's realization hits hard as he discovers the housekeeper and the giant sharing gleeful laughter, both evidently belonging to the same group. Han Shen declares that their cruel laughter will earn them a dreadful fate. Therefore, Han Shen immediately tells the skeleton warriors to charge at them. However, the giant easily blocks the sword attack from the skeletal warriors. With a smirk, the giant then uses the skill shield slam, which causes critical damage to the skeletal warriors. And with his next swing, the giant easily slashes one of the skeletal warriors. The system warns Han Shen that the skeleton warrior has taken critical damage. Raising his axe, the giant laughs, saying, "Just as I expected, these 2 were indeed the easiest to deal with." However, the masked skeletal warrior manages to hit the giant from behind, reminding us we should never underestimate the enemy. This makes the giant whine, saying, "Are you a coward? To attack from behind?" He yells, "Come at me head on," as he tries to slash the masked skeletal warrior. The masked skeletal warrior stands in front of Han Shen as the giant realizes that he has been poisoned from the last attack. But this makes the giant even more crazier as he states that he is going to finish them off before the poison takes effect. Suddenly, the system alerts Han Shen, as long as the host is in the energized state, you can repeatedly summon skeleton soldiers. Therefore, Han Shen commands the skeletal warriors to come out. As a result, 3 deadly skeletal warriors with full health are summoned in front of Han Shen. The giant is taken aback after seeing more skeletal warriors, but instead of running away, the giant activates all his combat powers, yelling, "Today I will finish you all in an instant." Raising his fingers, Han Shen says no matter how strong you are, it does not matter because, by wearing his battle armor, Han Shen warns the giant, "I will put you in an endless battle." However, the giant mocks him back by calling him a brat, who is way too arrogant. But as he was speaking, the masked skeletal warrior managed to launch yet another sneak attack. This time Han Shen managed to put a crack on his shield. Hiding behind a tree, the housekeeper wonders why is this happening? It was supposed to be the perfect plan. Worried, she realizes that Han Shen is too strong, thinking this might be a good time to run away. However, the thought of running away and losing all the wealth is not an option for her. She still wants to finish them all. Currently fighting, Han Shen jumps in the air. Raising his spear midair, the giant is surprised by this kind of attack. The giant uses the spell Spring Barrier, which forms a golden shield in front of him. But Han Shen already knows that the poison must have already affected him. So he tells the giant to stop pretending and uses the halberd slash at him. Impossible. The giant cannot believe his weapons are broken, realizing that the poison had slowed his reactions. Then one of the skeletal grabs onto the giant's hand, while the other skeleton warrior grabs onto the horns of the giant. The giant is already poisoned and caught by the skeletal warriors. Even in this situation, the giant shouts, "Wait, wait, you arrogant little brat. How dare you lay a hand on me? Are you out of your mind?" He continues threatening Han Shen, saying, "I am a member of the mercenary group. So offending me means offending the entire mercenary group. Let me go and you still might live." Still shouting, he orders Han Shen to let him go. In a flash, Han Shen finishes off the giant. The giant cannot believe what just happened. His eyes filled with horror and regret. Not a single word was said by Han Shen, just a clean and swift slash. In his final moments, the giant realizes that Han Shen is not an ordinary person. The system window tells Han that the mission is complete. The host has leveled up, and the attack and defense power of the skeletal warriors have been increased. Han Shen can feel the surge of new power within him. The system also rewarded him with a new skeleton soldier and 2 mage-type bone skeleton soldiers. These new skeleton soldiers look even more scarier than masked skeleton warrior. The system notifies Han Shen of extractable armor found, asking him, "Would you like to extract it?" Han Shen activates the spell saying extract target armor. The dark magical substance starts to come out from the giant's body. The system informs Han Shen that armor extraction is in progress. The skeleton warrior is now getting an upgrade. The system tells us that the armor is being equipped for your skeleton soldier. Therefore, the new skeleton warrior is now equipped with a new battle armor. The system informs Han Shen that armor extraction is complete. Please name your soldier. But Han Shen finds this naming task as a headache, deciding that he will just name them all at once. Based on the 4 great military honors in the army, Strombringer is the first soldier to scale the enemy's wall, which requires exceptional speed and agility. Therefore, the masked skeleton warrior with the highest agility and fastest speed is named Strombringer, which increases its speed by 5%. A frontbreaker is a soldier who charges into the enemy's position and breaks through their defenses. So as a defensive unit, he names the skeleton soldier as, you guessed it, the frontbreaker. A general slayer is someone who finishes or captures the enemy general, and it requires exceptional physical strength. A flag capturer is a soldier who captures the enemy's flags, which is under heavy defense. This requires a balance of strength and speed. However, Han Shen decides to use these 2 names later and orders the skeleton warrior to protect the ant and warns them not to scare her. By approaching too closely, behind the tree, the housekeeper looks frustrated. Not only her wealth from the Han family is gone, but the big deposit given to the mercenaries is also gone. Scared, she decides to run now, as this is not the time to be thinking about wealth. But suddenly, a dagger makes her freeze in her tracks. The masked skeletal warrior is already standing behind her with his daggers. Finally, the masked skeleton warrior kicks her down. Laying on the ground, the housekeeper realizes that it is all over now. Han Shen stands over the housekeeper as she tries her best to manipulate him, saying, "Nephew, you are my family and I am your aunt." She even fakes crying, saying, "It's all the mercenaries' fault. He made me do it. If I had not obeyed, then they would have finished me off. What could a weak woman like me do?" But Han Shen realizes that this wicked villain is truly treating me like a child, lying through her teeth. Still crying, she says, "I will never do it again, nephew. We are a family, so believe me." However, Han Shen is disgusted by this fake act. Seeing that Han Shen is not saying anything, she doubts if she managed to fool him. Finally, she asks Han Shen to let her go, saying, "I will leave everything behind and will never harm your family again." All this time, Han Shen is aware of the fact that this woman is lying to him. but he does not know if she still has more comrades lurking around. For safety's sake, he thinks it is necessary to question her thorough. But as he was thinking, the skeleton warrior already finished this villain off. Han Shen is speechless as the skeleton soldier stands victories beside him. The forest is shaken with Han Shen screaming, "What the heck was that? I didn't even finish talking." Then the skeleton warrior starts to draw something on paper. Even Han Shen doesn't know what this guy is up to now. Then, the skeleton warrior shows an image of Han Shen considering the villain as unforgivable. Han Shen realizes that the skeleton warrior actually heard him saying unforgivable. However, he kicks the skeleton soldier to the sky, screaming, "You have drawn me too ugly." Han Shen finds it troublesome that the skeletons still cannot understand him. "These brainless skeletons will ruin my plans if I don't control them." In the next scene, we see a beautiful landscape. Han Shen is carrying his mother. Thanks to the skeleton's treatment, her heart has stabilized, but she hasn't woken up yet. Suddenly, she wakes up. She asks Han Shen, "Where am I?" To which he replies, "Mother, you are awake. Don't you remember being kidnapped by the bad people?" But turns out that she cannot remember it. However, she notices that Han Shen just called her mother, so she asks him, "What did you just call me?" Han Shen says, "Of course, I called you mother." She tells him to repeat it while Han Shen assures her that he can say it 1,000,000 times if she wants. Back in their home, the workers are shouting, "Master, Madam," and the young master have returned. The old man cannot believe how lucky he is as he rushes towards them. The old man is relieved that she made it back safely, while she casually says, "Dear, I am hunger." Tears of joy would not stop as the old man says, "I will have a meal ready for you right away. Are you hurt? I was so worried." To which she said, "I am fine. I am hungry and want to eat something." Chu Ziyun, an authority figure in this town, says he didn't expect things to resolve so quickly. "Which fool dared to commit a crime in my territory?" Han Shen asks the old man, "Who's this?" To which the old man informs Han Shen stating, "Since you guys were in danger, I informed the sheriff of this town, Chu." When the old man asks, "Where's the housekeeper?" to Han Shen, he says that it's a long story, and he will slowly explain everything. The sheriff suddenly gets too closer to Han Shen with a serious expression. Then, he asks Han Shen, "Why are these filthy things following you?" Filthy things? Han Shen wonders if he really is a sheriff or a magician. Then, to prove his point, the sheriff charges his hand with magic. With his body covered in aura, he warns, "Will you come out on your own, or should I force you out?" Even Han Shen is feeling the intense pressure of his aura. He realizes that this guy is serious. However, Han Shen was surprised when a voice came out from behind him saying, "Ah, really?" Then a figure starts to become visible. Han Shen cannot believe it. This is Chao Yuanjin, a second-year instructor at the Eastern Academy, who says being called a filthy thing is really hurtful. Old bro has some good eye. The sheriff recognizes him and asks, "What brings you here?" To which he replies by telling him about the mysterious attack at the academy. He tells the sheriff that he had received orders to secretly protect this kid during the break, which the sheriff finds quite unusual. Even Han Shen did not know that he was secretly being followed since the start of the holiday. With a wink, he replies, "Yes, I have seen all your little secrets." Han Shen realizes that the matter of skeleton warriors has already been exposed. Meanwhile, the sheriff asks the instructor about an embarrassing spy mission. Before he spills the beans about that, someone telepathically makes a phone call to him. Han Shen asks the instructor what is happening. The instructor says there's probably another situation. Han Shen finds this kind of communication quite interesting. Turns out this is a magic tool. The instructor explains that you can press it once to answer and press it again to hang up. It is given to only authorities and specific individuals. Han Shen realizes that it is just like an ordinary headset. Since a monstrous beast was discovered hundreds of miles away, there are not enough people. So the sheriff decides to head there. Then he casually starts to float above the ground. At that time, the instructor asks if it's okay to bring Han Shen along with him, to let him experience the new world. The sheriff says it's okay. Let's head there quickly, no time to waste. Meanwhile, Han Shen is shocked as he sees the sheriff flying. The instructor tells Han Shen to not be surprised as flying is a skill that awakens at the Dragon King stage or higher. You still need some time before you can do it. Then he grabs Han Shen's hand saying it's fine. Then they all start flying saying that it is only 100 miles. We will be there in no time. There's a lot in this world that he doesn't understand. After some time, they arrive at their destination. They notice the shipwrecks washed up on the shore, which must have been caused by that monstrous beast. The sheriff is really angry as the reports say that the monstrous beast is responsible for wiping out several fishing villages around this lake. Han Shen notices something in front of him. There is someone in the water. No, they are all just severed parts. There are too many remains of various animals. Han Shen finds it hard to believe that these are all the leftovers of the beast. The sheriff explains it to Han Shen that these monsters do not need to eat. Destroying is simply their nature. Han Shen realizes that these creatures are something worse than wild beasts. So to catch this monster, they try to think of a way to lure this thing out. Suddenly, the instructor has an idea. But it might be a bad idea. In the next scene, we a bucket floating in the water. On top of this is Han Shen, who thinks that it is really a bad idea. The sheriff thinks that using the person you are supposed to protect as bait for the monster is a bad idea, but the instructor says it will be fine since we both are here. Because the instructor knows that he will have to face these devilious creators sooner or later. Acting as bait, Han Shen finds out that his skeleton soldiers cannot fight in the water. Suddenly, the water waves start to move heavily. Han Shen can clearly see the beast, which is enormous and is about to swallow him in one bite. The monster decided to snack on the guy, but the guy bounced up sharply. Looking at his two companions, the guy wondered why they didn't move or help him. Did they really decide to test his strength? In that case, Shun decides to summon his spear and rush towards the monster to finish it off, thus showing his strength. The spear hit right on point and the monster howled in pain. Shun gripped his spear tightly and used it as a jumping pole to land on the ground, then withdrew his spear, which immediately returned to him. The young lad studied the residual aura of this place and realized that the monster wouldn't be that strong. The man realized that this monster was a rank 6, but he didn't understand how a first-year student could fight it as an equal. Suddenly, the monster started attacking Shun again. The man thought that if they didn't help him, Shun would meet a bad end, but here was a young man telling his older brother to trust this kid. Shun immediately summoned all his skeletons, who immediately defended their master and began to attack the huge creature. But still the monster was strong, and so some of the skeletons were injured. But no problem, Shun has a couple more healer skeletons in his command, who came to the rescue just in time. The leader turns to Chao, saying that even the strongest warrior in armor with the summoning ability can only summon 2 warriors, so he doesn't understand what's going on here. Chao says he is as surprised as the Lord. Chao understands that Shin's armor level is low, so who knows what lies ahead for this guy, given that he has such strength. Meanwhile, the monster inhaled so hard that it emitted a huge green death ray that rushed into the skeleton warriors. But Shin won't let his healers get hurt, and so he covers them and reflects the attack. Turning around, he asks the healers to continue treating Frontbreaker and not to stop, and their safety is his responsibility. Hearing such words, the skeletal healers couldn't contain their embarrassment and started saying that their master is the best and simply awesome. But since you can't win a battle with words, Shin slapped the skeletal healers a couple times to make them talk less. He ordered his first warriors to focus on attacking the beast, and Xiao Deng was to attack from behind. The Lord watched that battle and didn't understand. Was Shin really a freshman at the academy? Thinking that it was impossible, Chao inquired what did he think of Han Shen. Mr. Chu was certain that Han Shen would without a doubt become an excellent armored warrior. But what was even more important was that he could give commands based on the situation. But right now, this guy was more of a commander than anything else. And most importantly, Mr. Chu wondered who this guy was. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and give it a like. If you want part 2, let's get 500 likes. Also write the secret word in the comments. Warrior. That way I'll know you watched the video to the end. See you later and bye-bye.